Hello guys, and welcome to Tiny Scroll. Be sure to like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. This is Saving Nora Episode 11. To see the complete playlist from Episode 1, check the link in the description or click the banner on the top right side of the screen. Saving Nora Episode 11. The bar on the first floor of the hotel was already bubbling with voices. Anthony was quite well known across California. The friends he had invited to the party had all brought even more friends along, filling up the bar. The bright lights shining across the entire bar blurred the scene. Men and women twisted their bodies fervently on the dance floor. Angela, dressed in a long red gown, was sitting in the corner with a drink in her hand. Her cheeks were bright and rosy. She was surrounded by her usual group of fair-weather friends, who took turns complimenting her. Hotel Finest is not cheap, Angela. Anthony must have big plans in mind, right? Is he going to propose? He must be proposing. I'm sure of it. Isn't your sister back? That's the end of it, right? Their engagement can officially be considered canceled. It's all her fault. She spent all those years hiding abroad, refusing to do anything about the engagement. You could have married Anthony a long time ago if not for her. Hey, what is she doing here? Alarmed, Angela turned to look toward the entrance. Nora had dressed just as casually that evening as in the previous days since her return to California. She was wearing comfortably fitted jeans and a black t-shirt that set off the skin around her neck, making it look so fair that it practically glowed white. She was expressionless. Her eyes were slightly lidded, and she gave off a world-weary attitude. Yet her looks were eye-catching and beautiful. She drew the attention of the entire party as soon as she entered the room. The moment she walked into the bar, a waiter rushed to the back to hiss to Anthony, "Mr. Gray, she's here." Anthony stood up immediately. "This is it. Get ready." The loud music in the bar gave Nora a headache, and she was quickly filled with an overwhelming sense of irritation. She looked around the bar indifferently. When she spotted Angela, she headed over toward her. Before she had made it very far, she heard her sister sneer pretentiously. "Why are you here, Nora? Anthony will never agree to meet you." Her friends were quick to chime in. "Nora, you must have heard that Anthony is going to propose tonight. Don't make a scene. You were the one who screwed around cheating and getting yourself pregnant before the wedding. That's why Anthony dumped you. Are you here to harass him again? Aren't you ashamed? Even if you are a little prettier now, you've still got your kid to deal with. Why would he ever pay attention to you? Just give it up." Their voices were loud and hateful, but the music was much louder. It quickly drowned out many of their spiteful words, meaning that the standoff between Nora and Angela's followers didn't really attract much attention from the rest of the crowd. Nora wasn't interested in what they had to say. She focused on Angela. "Tell me where my son is." Angela approached her with a sardonic smile. She pointed to the sofa and spoke so that only the two of them could hear. "Nora, if you sit down nicely, watch tonight's show all the way through. Give me and Anthony your blessing for everyone to hear. If you do that, I'll tell you." Now Nora understood. Angela wanted to use the marriage proposal scene to humiliate her. Nora knew she didn't have a chance. The private investigators she'd engaged didn't have any leads at all. So as long as there was a glimmer of hope, she was unwilling to give up. "You see, I am just like Nora. You watch my videos, and you are not subscribed, but I keep making these videos and I keep asking you to subscribe. So please subscribe so that I won't commit suicide. Help me to reach 1 million subs before Christmas. Christmas is in 5 days, and I have only 80 subscribers." Now back to your story. Nora sat on the sofa and leaned back. She closed her eyes, her long eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks as she uttered, "If this is really all you care about, then fine." Angela stared at her fiercely. She didn't understand how her sister could stay so calm. It made her look so foolish in comparison every time. She clenched her fists, searching for something to hurt Nora with. Suddenly she said, "Hey Nora, don't you ever wonder what things would have been like if you hadn't been fat? If you'd always been this pretty, would Anthony even have broken off your engagement in the first place?" Nora's eyes suddenly flew open, and they glinted sharply as she glared daggers at Angela. "What did you say to me?" Her obesity had been caused by hormonal injections in her childhood. Years later, she had discovered that her original prescription had been wrong. But knowing that now didn't lessen the pain she had felt struggling with her body as she grew up. Even though she had worked so hard to lose weight and suffered so much, her efforts had been useless for so long. Once she had finally stopped the medication, her body had needed time and careful attention to repair from the damage. Seeing that Nora's expression had finally changed, Angela laughed arrogantly. With a venomous look in her eyes, she said, "We're both Smiths, so why should you be the one to marry into the Greys? We had to do something to even things out. Messing with your meds worked out perfectly in the long run, just like Mom said it would. Look around. Sure enough, Anthony has fallen in love with me." Nora was stunned at Angela's words. Is she really saying that she and her mother purposefully did that to me? And Angela continued, heedless of Nora's reaction. "It really doesn't matter that you've slimmed down now. It's too late. What a waste of that face of yours. If you weren't stuck with that kid, you might have been able to find her roiled in Nora's eyes." She couldn't believe anyone could be so vicious. She had only been 5 when she'd been put on that hormone treatment. She was on the edge of losing her temper. Suddenly, all the lights in the bar went out, and the music came to an abrupt stop. 2 seconds later, a white spotlight shone at the center of the dance floor. Anthony was standing in the light, wearing a white suit, looking as handsome and elegant as ever. He was holding a guitar in his hands. The moment he appeared, everyone in the bar screamed, "Anthony, Anthony." Everyone in the bar, men and women, cheered and shouted his name. Everyone except Nora and Angela. He smiled, and then stretched out a finger and gestured for the crowd to quiet down. A hush instantly fell over the room. He strummed the guitar a few times, and a melody began to take form. He gently hummed a popular, familiar love song. Although it wasn't exactly a pro performance, it was a decent rendition. Angela stood up, tears flowing freely down her face. She couldn't believe it. This night was magic. He's so handsome, and he's mine. After finishing the song, Anthony put down the guitar. He held up the microphone and said, "I booked this whole place and got so many friends to join in today because I've got a special message for a certain somebody. From the very first moment I laid eyes on you, I knew you were extraordinary. Yeah, Anthony, Anthony." Everyone cheered again, building up the atmosphere to a climax. Anthony gave a wave. Immediately, a few pops sounded, and the balloons on the ceiling burst, scattering the room with a shower of rose petals from above. Angela covered her mouth. Her eyes were filled with joyful surprise. "This is so romantic." She turned to the side excitedly and sneered at Nora. "Do you see this? Anthony never did anything like this for you. Look at everything he does for me. I'm worth 10 of you." Angela felt like she was flying. Her heart only soared higher when she recognized the envy in the eyes of the other girls around her. She felt like she was going to burst from happiness. Then, she saw Anthony slowly walking step by step toward her with a bouquet of roses in his hands. The surrounding crowd cleared a path for him like an ocean parting. Angela straightened her back. She couldn't help but take a few steps toward him. She knew this day was the highlight of her life. She didn't notice that Anthony only had eyes for someone else. Even in the dimly lit bar, the woman sitting on the sofa was dazzling and eye-catching. He wasn't aware of anyone else, even Angela. All he could think was, this is dramatic enough to be a proposal. She has to at least let me take her out on a date, right? Angela stopped a few steps away from him, watching him come nearer and nearer. Her smile blossomed uncontrollably. This is it. He's about to get down on one knee. It's happening. Angela watched in utter confusion, unable to process what was happening, as Anthony walked past her and stopped in front of Nora instead. He bent down and offered Nora the roses in a suave gesture. "Miss Anderson, may I have the honor of making your acquaintance?" Angela's eyes widened in astonishment as she stared at the scene in disbelief. It was difficult to see in the dim light of the bar, which made her feel as if she were dreaming. She couldn't understand why Anthony had bypassed her and gone up to Nora. Nora definitely hadn't expected such a dramatic twist either. She had only seen Anthony twice since returning to California. Was he seriously dumping Angela, his prospective fiancée, to try and come after her instead? Glancing over Anthony's shoulders, she saw how surprised and furious Angela looked. The sight of her helped Nora calm down a little. She had been so upset at the horrible revelation that Angela and her stepmother had been responsible for her poor health as a child. This revenge was too sweet. The corners of her lips curled upward into a mischievous smile. Her smile, which was as bright and dazzling as a blooming sunflower, made Anthony's eyes light up. He was about to say something, but Angela couldn't control herself anymore. She screamed. It was only when he heard her voice that Anthony finally noticed Angela standing behind him. He frowned and asked. Angela was still fantasizing that perhaps Anthony had mistaken someone else for her in the darkness. But his question shattered her hopes. She glared at Nora angrily. She raised her hand to strike Nora. Anthony immediately jumped in to stop her. With a stern look, he snapped. "What are you doing, Angela? Don't make a scene." Angela's cheeks flashed angrily. "Are you actually defending her? Do you know?" "Enough." Anthony interrupted her. "Look at yourself, Angela. You're a mess. Can't you be more like Miss Anderson? Try getting some of her charm and charisma." Angela was stunned. "Who did you say she was? Don't you know who she is?" Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.